Good morning. Today I'd like to reflect with you on the Gospel from Friday of the 12th week of Ordinary Time. It's taken from the beginning of the 8th chapter of St. Matthew's Gospel. When Jesus came down from the mountain, great crowds followed him. And then a leper approached, did him homage, and said, "Lord, if you wish, you can make me clean." He stretched out his hand, touched him, and said, "I will do it. Be made clean." His leprosy was cleansed immediately. Then Jesus said to him, "See that you tell no one, but go show yourself to the priest and offer the gift that Moses prescribed. That will be proof for them." The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. At the beginning of the 5th chapter of St. Matthew's Gospel, Jesus had gone up the mountainside and great crowds followed him, and there he delivered his Sermon on the Mount. At the conclusion of the Sermon on the Mount, and we heard this yesterday, the crowds were delighted with what they had heard, because Jesus preached with authority and not as the scribes and Pharisees had done. Jesus practiced what he preached, and he had just told his disciples that they must put their faith into action, that they must have concrete gestures that show their lived faith. Now he comes down from the mountain, and immediately he is approached by a leper. It's something truly extraordinary because lepers were to live far outside the city. They were to have rattles. They were to cry out, "Unclean, unclean." They could easily infect people. So that a leper would approach Jesus and do him homage is truly remarkable. He approaches Jesus. He does him homage. Literally, he genuflects or adores. He recognizes the divine presence, just as those who had heard Jesus preach recognized a new teaching and with authority, how they recognized Jesus was making a claim to be God because he went even beyond what Moses had taught, and he taught them on his own authority. So too this leper recognizes it. And he addresses Jesus in a way that shows he recognizes it. He calls him Lord, Kyrie. "If you wish, you can make me clean." He doesn't immediately ask the Lord to cleanse him, to make him whole. Rather, he first acknowledges his lordship and says, "If you will it." He recognizes the sovereignty of Jesus. Everything is in his hands. And just as the leper genuflects before Jesus, there's a gesture there of adoration. So too Jesus has a gesture. He stretches out his hand and touches him and says, "I will do it. Be made clean." The stretching forth of the hand is sort of the hand of God, showing mercy, bringing healing. It would have been extraordinary for any Jew to touch a leper because that would have made the Jew unclean. But Jesus does not hesitate. He is not afraid. Rather, he wants to show the mercy and compassion of God. He also shows the divine will. God wishes that all should be saved and that none should perish. That God wishes that his mercy be made known widely. And he cleanses the leper. And the leper was cleansed immediately, the scriptures tell us. What would it mean for the leper? Well, if you had leprosy, as I said, you had to live far apart from everyone. But it also meant you couldn't be with your family. It meant that you could not go to work. It meant that you could not go up to the temple to worship. Through an encounter with Jesus, the leper's situation is radically changed. Jesus is the Lord of life. And so now the leper is told to go up to the temple and show himself to the priest according to the Mosaic law, proving that he has truly been cleansed. He will be able to worship God again. He will be able to be restored to his family, to resume his way of life. And again, he will have an extension on life, whereas leprosy was certain death. In many ways, we also have to think about sin as leprosy. What does sin do? Well, St. Paul tells us the wages of sin is death. We also know from faith that sin isolates us. It separates us from God and our neighbor. Sin can make us unclean spiritually and give us a type of a lingering sickness. But Jesus comes to touch us and to touch our lives with his mercy, to heal us and make us whole and holy. And to restore us to friendship, also not only with God and our neighbor, but with the church, so we can again worship God in spirit and in truth. All of this Jesus offers to us. We could even think of kind of the sin that is spread throughout the church. She's been made holy and immaculate by the precious blood of Christ, and yet members of the church are sinners. And yet Jesus doesn't cast us off simply because we are sinners. Rather, he comes to seek out and save what was lost and broken. And he can heal the wounds of sin and division even within the church, individuals and with the body as a whole. But we must acknowledge his lordship. We must worship him rather than ourselves. And we must ask, Lord, if you wish it, be made clean. But we know what the divine will is. He does want us to be clean. He does want us to be healthy. He does want us to be pure of heart. Blessed are the pure of heart, for they shall see God. Let us ask the Lord Jesus, the divine physician, to heal us inside and out so that we might serve him in holiness. May God bless you and your families this glorious day.